There was a situation in my life. I was working, and for the first 11 months, I wasn't receiving salary. There were some days that I could go without food. On one Sunday, I went to church. We have some other branches of our church, so normally they will take me to those, about two of them. I'll go and preach, and then when I return, I'll come and fellowship with the main church, and then I go home. So I remember after one of those preaching sessions, when I came back to the main church, I was wondering what I was going to eat. Just when I was about leaving after church, someone just came to me and gave me a handshake, and the person left in my hand an envelope, and that contained some amount of money that could take me for about 3 weeks. Now, it's easy for God to speak to someone who already has the Spirit of God in them. It's easy for them to respond to the promptings of the Spirit. I did not tell anyone that I did not have money, but the Spirit of God may have touched them that this person needs some help. And that happened so many times until my salary started coming. And so that I would say that God is in heaven. He's not here physically with us. And so even when God needs to meet our needs, He will still have to use people to do that.
Oh, was that when you were in Ghana?
Yeah, that was when I was in Ghana, not over here.
Okay.
My name is Erwin Doe, and in Ghana, my parents normally call me Eke. Yeah, which actually means a new day of life has dawned. That's the meaning of the name. Yeah, but going to school, not many people know that name except my siblings and my family and those who grew up in the environment with me. So if you should call me by that name, I will actually be surprised, yeah. I was born in Ghana. I lived in the rural part of the country for most of my life. And when I went to the city, it means I actually went to school. And there are two major cities in Ghana, Accra and Kumasi. So I schooled in Kumasi for about 6 years. Yeah, I'm actually doing my second master's here in Ball State. So my first degree was at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and I also went there to read my master's. Also in pharmaceutical chemistry. The first degree was in chemistry. Last year I came here to read my second master's in chemistry. I would say I was not born in a Christian home, but when I was about 9 years thereabout, there was this particular church that came to organize a crusade in the area. And at the time, there was no church in the town where I was, to the best of my knowledge. So they came to do a crusade for about a week. And so my mom took us there, and then they established the church. I happened to join the children, and so that's why I was fellowshipping for some time. My uncles who were fellowshipping in a nearby town, they were the ones that were inspiring me a lot, especially because of their prayer life. So I decided to move from where I was fellowshipping to join them, which happens to be an Assemblies of God church. So practically, I would say I came to receive Christ at the age of 13. And that is how the journey actually unfolded. My concern primarily after coming to know Christ was to know Him more and more. One day I found a book on my dad's shelf, and the title of the book was The Origin of the Bible. So I became interested, and after reading that book, it nearly damaged my faith. Actually, what the author was trying to do was to pinpoint certain mistakes that were in the Bible. He made references to certain parts of First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, First Kings, Second Kings, First Samuel, Second Samuel, about certain numbers that were quoted. And then the numbers were not consistent. I was taking the Bible myself to read those verses that he was referring to, and when I found out, they were really true. So he was like, so if this book is really inspired by God, why were there so many mistakes? So I became concerned. And these things were so serious that even the people that I looked up to, I wasn't sure that they would be able to really explain this thing to convince me. So for the next 7 years, I was going to be struggling with this. But somehow there was some inner knowing in me that God was real. But I needed an explanation. So after 7 years, on my dad's shelf again, my brother bought a book for my dad. It's actually a conglomeration of a number of books by R.A. Torrey. One section of the book has to do with difficulties in the Bible. So I became attracted to that. I took the book and then I read that portion, and the author was actually also explaining why some of these mistakes were there in those translations of the Bible. And he was saying that when you take the Hebrew, sometimes those writings have some dots, and then if the scribes are copying, many times they try to prepare many copies of the Torah. So when they are copying, they make some mistakes. If they forget and they don't put the dots there, that could mean that if it is 500, that could change to 50. So that was the reason for some of those minor errors, especially in the Old Testament. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So from that day, I made a decision that anytime I am reading the Bible and I see something that seems controversial, it is not that there was something wrong with the Bible. It is just that there was something that I needed to find out. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, I'll eventually find out. So that was actually what helped me to get more concerned about how real God was. And that's what has been keeping me so far. In this life, a lot of people are going through many challenges. The questions that some of them will ask is if God is there. God in his life sometimes does not show us the bigger picture. Many times when we are in a particular situation, we are only thinking about what is happening to us at that moment, but we do not know what God is keeping for us at the end of the day. Because some of those challenges that we go through, what God intends is that he wants to use that situation to train us and to actually prepare us for something better that is at the end of that experience. So when we are not able to look beyond the challenge, normally we will think that God is not caring, God is not loving. But when we're able to go through, eventually we're able to understand what God was trying to do by allowing us to go through that particular situation. That is overwhelming. If I should refer to Romans chapter 5, from verse 6 to 7 thereabout, the Bible said God demonstrated his love toward us while we were still sinners. So at the time when we didn't even see that we needed help, he sent Christ to die for us. And so to me, that is a very fundamental truth that I think a lot of people are not aware of. And if they are conscious of it, it can change their perspective about God. If anyone who is a believer of God, if the person happens to encounter a challenge that makes them to doubt whether God was really with them, what I would like to give as an advice is that they should exercise patience. It does not matter how long. Maybe it could take 15 years, it could take 20 years, maybe even a lifetime, who knows? They should keep searching. And as they keep searching, God will bring the answer to their door. And during those years, the person should not consider it as a waste, because God knows why He has to wait at a certain time to bring the answer. And when He brings the answer, all those years of trying to look for the truth will make a lot of meaning to them, and they will also be able to use that to help others who might find themselves in the same situation.